this year's rendition of the Linguistics panel, which for 2 years has been Linguistics of the speech, and I actually ran out of topics related to the Young Wizard's speech, at least that I could actually talk about. It wouldn't take enormous amounts of research, so tabling those. Instead, we're going to talk about, so you want to be Carmela, which of course, obviously we all do. But, first of all, Daiso, my name is Sarah. I'm Je ne sais pourquoi on Tumblr and Slack, and Magister SVC on Twitter, and Enemies on AO3 and a bunch of places, whatever. I'm very bad at having a name. I am known in this fandom for a lot of things: the original fandom directory, the original run of fandom teas, other things, a lot of irrelevant shouting about hockey, but also a lot of geeking out about linguistics, which is, of course, what we are talking about right now. And before we really start, I want to say some thank yous, because this would not have happened without a great number of people. Way back in 2016, when we were getting the first cross-linguistically together, someone said, "I want to know about the speech, and I think you'd be really good at explaining this." And a bunch of other people were like, "Yeah, do it!" And I was like, okay. So then I did, and people continued to ask questions and had tons of enthusiasm and have continued that conversation and really inspired me. So thank you, because I wouldn't be doing that without the rest of you. Special shout outs to Sonia for putting this on this year's schedule before I knew that I was going to do this. She was just like, "I assume it's happening," and I was like, "Sure." Also, special thanks to Jenny for helping me herd my cat-like thoughts into something presentable, and double extra thanks to Eli for confirming all of my thoughts about this at 11 o'clock last night, which is when I wrote some of this. Also, at some point, because my computer stopped cooperating, we are going to go to the really classy old-school whiteboard, which has unerasable parts of things, because it is an old-school whiteboard. But that's related. So, finally, a disclaimer. Although we all obviously want to be Carmela, I cannot actually teach anyone to be as cool as her. I know nothing about the intergalactic chocolate trade, and I cannot actually imbue anyone with a steganographic gift. However, I can give you a crash course in the sounds of Earth languages, parent languages. As I said, we're going to kind of focus on the sort of lowercase speech. I think I'm very clever with my typographic editorial symbols here. So all different kinds of sounds that humans can make, some that are common, some that are uncommon, several that are familiar, hopefully several that are unfamiliar to you. My goal is that you can leave here with at least one sound to add to your accent repertoire for when you want to impersonate other people. So we'll see how that goes. So first, some basic terminology. Phonetics is the observation, study, analysis of specific sounds, not necessarily sounds that have meaning attached to them in any way, but just actually the sound that you make. A phoneme is a unit of sound that has meaning attached to it. And
it has to have meaning.
It is distinguishable. It doesn't have a definition in and of itself, but it carries meaning in the way that, for instance, in English, b and p, like a b and a p, are considered phonemes because there's a difference between a bat and a pat. Those words mean different things. And so phonology is the observation, study, analysis of phonemes and how they change contextually in a word. Also, phonetics and phonemes can also, I got ahead of myself. So, when we are writing, we have a couple specific conventions of writing. So the English letter L, if we put it between these angle brackets, that means this is how this letter or this sound is actually depicted in the orthographic writing system of the language. We use these angle brackets to denote that that's the orthographic representation of the sound. That's like just the letter L. Whatever it sounds like in various languages, that's how it is spelled in those languages. We use the slash brackets to indicate the phonemic representation. So this is like the basic sound without regard to how it might change depending on the speaker's accent or its placement in a word or which language it is in particular or things like that. This is kind of the broad brush stroke. And then we use square brackets to denote more specific individual sounds. You will notice that in English, which is the model I'm using here, our phonemic L has two versions of it in the phonetic transcription, depending on where it fits in the word and how you're pronouncing it. More on that in a minute. Also, a phoneme is also used in the study of sign languages. They were at one time called charemes, C-H-E optional I-R-E-M-E, which comes from the Greek word for hand. And then people were like, that's confusing. And also, we want to highlight the fact that sign languages and spoken languages operate mostly the same way. So phonemes, even though they're not sound-based, we still use that to mean the smallest amount of distinctive meaning.
I've seen lexeme.
So lexeme would be a part of a word that has like a definitional meaning. Phoneme is like a sound or a shape that distinguishes this word from a different word.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think of a good sign language one. Like a class.
Or say palm direction, stars versus socks.
Oh yes, stars and socks. Very good, very good. Thank you. Yeah, someone asked me some questions about bad sign language. You said the wrong word things tonight. I got some bad ones. Okay. Anyway, so some more basic terminology. We just talked about phonemes. We kind of consider those to be like the underlying form of the sound. So an L we think of as being L, and that's like the basic form. And then it changes in English from L to sometimes ol, depending on what kind of word it is. And so we call those specific ones the realized sounds, the phones, the actual speech sounds that come out of your mouth, as opposed to the ones that live in your head and go, yeah, these are totally the same sound. And then you say them and you're like, well, okay, maybe. And allophones are the set of phones that are realizations of the same phoneme. So we say that L and ul are allophones of the phoneme L, I guess. We decide that's the default one. And yeah, now the IPA. No, beer. This deeply baffled a couple of my friends who are like my parents' age, and when I was in high school on Facebook talking about, oh, I'm studying the IPA, and they were like, you are 17? And I was like, what are you even talking about?
Okay, beer was just as bitter.
So instead, the IPA is the International Phonetic Alphabet. Shout out to the folks who helped me a week or two ago, or not even that long ago, figure out a font that will make this readable. For the record, this is Cambria. Lucida Grande is also pretty good. It didn't show up as well on PowerPoint, although it shows up really well in Google Chrome, which is annoying because this is not Google Chrome. Also, a big shout out to ipa.typeit.org, which makes it super easy to type in the International Phonetic Alphabet. You should check it out. You should support them. Tomasz has a Patreon for this and the other type of things that make it easy to type in all kinds of scripts and languages. If you don't have a keyboard installed on your device, it's the best. Okay. So this is a super narrow, super detailed transcription, way more than I'm going to actually do with you today, but in case you are curious, I am going to post this whole presentation online after, and if you feel like reading through it and DMing me or emailing me or whatever and being like, what on earth are these things I Googled and I don't get them, please do. I would love that. Okay, so ipa.typeit.org. Forgot that was coming. Now, the consonants. There are a lot of them. They're delightful. Some vocab. So, we have arranged all of the consonantal sounds in this table. And across the top, we have place of articulation, where you are saying them. So, P and B and M are your bilabial, your two-lip sounds. So when you say P and B and M, they're all coming off your two lips. Now, by the way, the working title for this presentation was A Room Full of Proto-Phoneticists, which means I absolutely expect all of you to be making these sounds after I say them. Have no shame. Welcome to linguistics. That's what we do. You can whisper if you want to, but you can also just go and everyone will be doing it too. It's great. Then we have labiodental, which is one lip and or teeth. So f and v are our big English sounds that fall in this category. You have your, what is that, top teeth, bottom lip.
Yeah.
There we go. Dental, alveolar, and post-alveolar. For most of these categories, which I should have said down the vertical side is the type of sound that it is. These are very, very similar and indistinguishable to most people, except in the fricative row. So the dental sounds, these are the TH sound in English. So the and the. Your tongue is between both sets of your teeth. The alveolar sounds, which is kind of the default for the rest of these, the alveolar ridge is in your mouth behind the root of your teeth. So you can feel, if you drag your tongue up or your finger, like where it sharply goes up, that's the alveolar ridge. Yes. So S and Z are primarily made there. That's like where your tongue is. Also, T, D, N, R, L, those are all in there. Yes?
Can we go back for a second? What was the two dental sounds? Because I could don't.
Th, like thin, and the, like these ones. Both of the TH sounds.
Okay, that's what I was confused
Yep.
about.
Also, it says down here, symbols to the right are voiced, to the left are voiceless. So the two TH sounds in English are the same, except for whether you vibrate your vocal cords or not. So if you say th or th, you can feel your vocal cords vibrating. If you say like sing or zing, sing, zing, you can feel whether, or if you just go, you can feel your vocal cords vibrating. That's the only difference. Which is especially why if people are whispering, it's really easy to get those sounds mixed up, because when you whisper, you turn off your vocal cords. And so if you don't have enough context, it's very easy to get a pair of sounds that are right next to each other in the same cell like that, flipped if they're supposed to be voicing and you missed it or whatever.
What were the bilabial fricatives again?
We have not come to those.
Okay.
They are not in English. I will get there. Retroflex, these are very hard sounds. They're not in English. They, if you have studied Mandarin, that retroflex R at the end of like ZHI is this thing, kind of.
Indian languages.
Indian languages have a lot of them, yep. Basically it means you've like rolled your tongue back and are making the sound so like it's, I suck at them and I'm sorry. Palatal is, well actually we're going to skip velar because we have these in English. We have k and g and kung. This is the ng sound. That's on your velum, which is your soft palate. The palatal sounds are just slightly to the front of that. That's your hard palate. So the one we have in English is y.
Oh.
So a lot of these sounds represent their, not quite their English sounds, but their English sounds because their English sounds are very similar to their Latin sounds. But we saved the character Y for a vowel. So we get y, like in fjord. And then we get very far back, uvular. Your uvula is the little dangly thing in the back of your throat that sometimes swells up when you get sick. So you have k and g, which is one of the options for a French R, which is another one, the voiceless one, which I'm bad at. The pharyngeal ones, which your pharynx is like right even further back in your throat, I cannot pronounce those sounds. And then the glottis is the little flap that covers up your windpipe. So when you, so k in English comes all the way from back there. And the glottal stop, which is a great sound. This is the sound in the middle of uh-oh. Because you have literally stopped the air in your throat by cutting it off at the windpipe extension and made it to your mouth.
It's a sound that contains its own name. The glottal stop.
Yes, in many accents, thank you, dialects of English. T and D, particularly T, get one of its allophones, one of its realizations of the like mental sound of T becomes so glottal button. Think about the kind of very stereotypical Cockney. Thank you.
Batman.
Batman, yes. Okay. So, if you want further explanation of any sounds that I don't touch on today, Wikipedia is actually a great resource for this. It is also an incredibly overwhelming resource. So be judicious, but you can find specific IPA pages on Wikipedia for specific languages, for just the vowels, just the consonants. The best part about it is that they're clickable, and that I would say like 95% of the sounds of all of the different things, if you clicked on it, it's a very accurate representation of that sound. There are always a few where I'm like, I think you linked the wrong file in here, but I'm not actually a Wikipedia editor and I don't have time to fix this. But it's pretty reliable. And again, hit me up if you have questions. I love talking about this stuff. Obviously. So, down this side, we have the types of sounds. So plosive is also called stops, because these are the sounds that literally stop the air from coming out of your mouth for a period of time. So, like all of these are, you have a stream of air coming out of your mouth and then you stop it. The nasal sounds, you redirect that stream of air to go out your nose, which is why when you have a cold and you're super stuffed up, you struggle to say these sounds. Your N's come out sounding like D's because you can't actually get the air to come out this way, so it sounds like T. Right? You get that. The trills are exactly what they sound like. The one that you are, well actually two that you're most likely to be able to restart that sentence. One you are most likely to be able to do off the top of your head is the bilabial trill, which is a sound in many languages, not English. The alveolar trill, this is what we think of as the Spanish double R. Many people can do this just cold and can't put it in a word. That's me. And then the uvular trill, which is like, that's almost more this. It's hard to distinguish that. Okay, tap or flap. So this is like a trill, but instead of doing it multiple times, you just do it once. So Spanish single R. Rojo. This I can do. It is also secretly in English. Say the word butter.
Butter.
Do you say butter with the T in it? Butter. That's the sound. Butter. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow if you say it fast enough. Buy a tomato, you usually put real T in. Yes?
Potato.
Potato.
Maybe.
Potato. Oh yes, the second T, you're right. First T, but that second T is definitely a tap. That's good.
D's do it too.
Yes, D's do it too. So the thing that you climb up your house, a ladder, right? The former and the latter, same sound. So both D and T often condense or collapse to this. This is an allophone of both D and T phonemes, which means that when you say something and someone's like, wait, I'm very confused, then you say, no, a ladder, and you pronounce the D. Or no, the latter, the second one, you pronounce the T to distinguish those. Fricatives are super fun. There are a lot of them. The word fricative means rubbing or like making noise. So these are the noisiest of all the sounds, by which we mean like if you look at an audio recording, you're going to get really big volume spikes when you hit a fricative sound. When you hit a stop, you're going to get dead silence for however long you said that stop. So the bilabial fricatives. So this is like F and V, but not with your teeth, with both of your lips. So and they're hard for an English speaker. You will find with the phi in Japanese, like Mount Fuji. And you will find the beta sound in several places, probably Castilian Spanish, probably modern Greek. Don't quote me on that. F and V, obviously, we have in English. THs, we have in English. S and Z, we have in English. These are sh and sh. So, shh, like be quiet, which is a ridiculous sound because it is the loudest thing. But I guess you want that to tell other people to not make sounds.
Yeah, you want loud, you will touch over.
Yeah. And then this is just the voiced version of sh. So this is the sound in the middle of measure.
Oh.
Yes. Judge? No. We're coming to that one. But you're so close. You're so close. I love it. Then they keep going back, and I can't pronounce them anymore.
I can pronounce them if you want.
Well, with an exception of these ones, which I can pronounce, but I can't tell you which one I'm doing. We'll get to those. But these are basically where you're going to find all of the German and Hebrew like lock, that's Spanish, or not Spanish, freaking Scottish. Scottish CH sound is somewhere in there. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, that's cinematographic.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Cool. So here are all of the sounds that we have in English. Well, the best that I could do. So what you were hearing in judge is what we call an affricate, and what it is a combination of a stop and a fricative in one sound. So D and then J as one sound, J. So this is both of the sounds in judge. This is ch, like in church. And this is s, like at the beginning of the word tsar, or the end of the word cats, or at the beginning of the word tsunami. Yes. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I never got down. I skipped the last 2 rows. So real quick, the lateral fricative only exists in this place. It is like a fricative sound, but with an L. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. The approximates are like, well, we didn't know what else to call them, but they're like kind of a sound in this place. And this is the English, the North American English R sound. So it is written as a printed R, but upside down. Fun fact, a lot of these characters originated as rotated normal print letters, because before we had computers and inkjet printers, we had typewriters and typeset printing, and it's much easier to just take a typeset character and turn it and print it than it is to cast a whole new set of characters. And then we invented computers and ran out of rotations. So, you know, I don't know which one came first, probably running out of rotations. So this is brr. And worldwide, that is not a common sound. It is very hard. Congratulations, any of you who grew up speaking North American English, because you have acquired that sound, and very few people in the world have, statistically speaking. Really, that is true. Then we have, yes, the lateral approximant. So this is L. Unfortunately, the ol version just doesn't make it onto this chart, which is annoying. The ol one is called the velarized or dark L, and it is just. It is not this one. It's like this sound, because it's still, your tongue is still up here.
In the distal alveolar category.
Oh, no, this is a different one. I'm going to come back to that. This is, so L is dental alveolar, because you're still putting your tongue in the back of your teeth. L. But if you go ol, your tongue is on the back of your teeth still, and you've raised the back of your tongue to hit your velum. So you're saying ol. That sound is also not that common. French and Spanish, for instance, being the languages that I know the best outside of, well, no, Latin, but also. Those only have L. So if you, in English, we're going to have ol most of the time at the end of words. So little is a great example, because at the beginning of the syllable we have L, at the end of the syllable we have ol, little. However, in French and Spanish, if you have an L at the end of the word, so el papel, you're still going to say the L. It's a little bit quieter, but you're not going to at it. If you hear anyone speaking Spanish who says el papel, they have not practiced very much. That's bad. Yes?
Where is the Japanese LR noise on here?
It's the same sound as in butter.
It is. So primarily it is this. The reason that for Japanese it sounds like an L is because they don't have this sound to contrast it with. So in Spanish we have el, papel, and we have words which I can't think of that end with, that have R. Well, color, they have this one. So they have both an R and an L sound, and this R, right? So color is this, papel is this, and those sounds are different. In English, and L are different. In Japanese, there's no L. There's nothing to contrast it with. So they have not learned, without study and practice, to differentiate these different alveolar approximate sounds, especially because these two are both pretty approximate and not super clear. And so they're like, both of these sound vaguely like this. Okay.
The reason why I ask is when I was learning Japanese, I had to learn to move my tongue to the center of my palate instead of at the front or the back.
Yes, so depending on the dialect of Japanese or where your teacher was from, some Japanese speakers have this, some of them have it further back. And that is something that I've also struggled with in my minute studies of Japanese, because my teacher doesn't know enough of this to be able to like confirm my questions. It's okay. What else we got? Yes, talk about affricates, and then we have W, which just also didn't make it onto this, in part because, like the affricates, it's a double articulation. So these are labial velar, in that your tongue is back here where you would have K or G, but then your lips are doing a thing, your bilabial thing. So whoop, you can't just go without doing anything with your lips, but you also can't just go. You have to like have both of them. So they were like, we don't know where to put this, and then they put it way down here, and I copied and pasted it. The difference between the voiced and voiceless W is what some people still distinguish as W and WH. So water, voiced, which, unvoiced. Not even gonna comment on that. Okay, I'm from Boston. One of the local hockey commentators is really, really fan of the voiceless sound, and people put it in words that start with W and have no H in them. Like, water is not a thing, Jack. Calm yourself. Anyway.
He's very quick.
Yes. Wicked cool. Alright. You're welcome, I'm sorry. Whatever. Welcome, yes, okay. So, now, these orange ones are the consonantal sounds that are present in at least 50% of the world's languages that have been cataloged as of 2019, which is a total of 2,186 languages. I got this stuff from a website called Foible 2.0, which is amazing. I found it actually last night because I realized the data I had been working from was from 1985. This is very out of date. And then I found this, and I'm in love with it, so that's great. So you will notice that the most common sounds, the sounds that are most popular cross-linguistically, M is the most common. And that is actually pretty understandable because the first thing that babies ever do when they start talking is moving their mouth, moving their lips. All this is part of your mouth. And then we have K and J. And so immediately what you can see is that we're starting to spread these sounds out. If you have only 10 or 12 or however many sounds I've circled here, you're not going to crowd them all up in this corner because that makes it really hard for you to distinguish how to make them in your mouth, and it makes it really hard for the person you're talking to hear the distinction between them. And so the smaller your sound inventory is, the more spread out it's going to be. As you start adding more and more and more sounds, of course it's going to get more crowded. But you're never going to have like, oh, let's just have all uvular pharyngeal glottal sounds, like or like, let's just have all bilabial sounds. We'll just go puma, 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 puma. Like, that's difficult. You run out of sound options really fast. Yeah, okay. So I just found it also interesting that English contains all of these over 50% sounds, which is not surprising because we have a really big sound inventory. But it's fun. Now, ready for this? I was planning to show you all of the least common sounds worldwide. It's all of them. There were like 3 solid pages of sounds that rounded down to 0% of languages have these. Not because there were 0 languages, but because like less than 1% of 2,000 is still a reasonable number, and I'm not going through that list. Also, one of them was like, like, but as one sound, and I was like, I literally physically don't know how to do this. It was unga or something, like in one go, and I was like, I don't know. It didn't say, and I was like, that's impressive, but I can't do it.
Their languages.
Yes, I will post. Actually, here I will even show this not with a pen on the whiteboard because that's not how things work. I just bought fancy new Expo markers because they were on sale, and they're 8 different colors that I don't get for free at the school I teach at. And that's like a miracle, so I get to read the benefits. So, for the camera even.
In the light, please.
There you go.
No, I'm in the
Oh.
down.
Up.
No, that was actually much better.
I could have just looked at that. You know what? It's fine. Everything's fine. Okay. So, play with that on your own time. Consonants. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the fun sounds. And the fun sounds, I mean the ones that are either very common or very uncommon, and the ones that I just think are really fun to say. So, in addition to being a sound that almost no one in the world knows how to say, th and th are super uncommon, which is why so many speakers of other languages, even when they have mastered English grammar and English vocabulary and most things about English, they're still going to struggle and say either D's or T's or V's, what's the one? I think or I think instead of I think. The other thing is that not all dialects of English even have the interdental sounds, the and the. And so, especially some of the UK dialects just go to F and V instead. So I think something, or these cookies are very delicious, or whatever. And I did promise someone, or a couple someones, a story about this. I was listening to the Redwall audiobooks, and there is a character whose name, and if you already know what I'm talking about or know the character I'm about to say, like, don't spoil this. Let people figure out what went wrong for themselves. So the narrator was doing all kinds of really impressive accents, and he kept pronouncing this character's name Cheese Teeth. And if you think about that, and you think about the different ways that t and f can be allophones for different sounds, the question is, was cheese teeth cheese teeth or cheese thief? And it took me the entire book to figure it out because I kept hearing it one way or the other, because F can be a variant of th, and T can be a variant of th. And so teeth instead of thief, like it was put it, I was just very, very confused.
I'm going to guess it was thief.
It was thief, but it took me a while. I have it written in my notes as cheese teeth. I literally have just forgotten what this dude's name is. Okay, so the lateral fricative, as promised. This is my favorite sound. I'm very sad if any of you are familiar with Michael Driver or whatever her other name, Gail. No, but she has Full Day's Drive. She's on the internet. She found this sound in a video that was about like certain Chinese languages that are not Mandarin. And she was like, oh my god, this is the language I grew up speaking. I've never heard this sound in a million years. This is so cool. And I was like, yes, also Welsh. So I'll get to Welsh in a minute. I don't know enough about, I don't even remember the name of the language that she was talking about. I feel bad. But the point is, this one, the L with the little curly Q through the middle, is, and the best way, that if you can't figure out how to say that, say the word Atlantic, but like really overpronounce the middle of that. Atlantic. That really spitty sound in the middle. Yeah.
Donald Duck.
Sure. And that's further back. That's gonna be something back here, but the Atlantic. You gotta like, because it's like an L and an H, like did something.
45 minutes lost in Cardiff trying to find the Phoenician Leisure Center.
Oh my god. So, here's a fun fact. The name Floyd.
F-L-O-Y-D.
F-L-O-Y-D. We're gonna try this again. Ready? I'm gonna actually put this. Yeah, right there. Floyd. 2 letters. This is the Welsh spelling convention for and so Welsh people came to America or to England or to wherever where people didn't understand this, and they said, my name is Floyd. And people who had never heard that sound before said, bless you. And then said, oh, either they heard the L sound predominantly and they were like, Lloyd, okay, we'll spell it the way you said and we'll pronounce it Lloyd. Or they heard the fricative-ish sound and they were like, F. That's what we have in this language, F. You are Floyd. Also,
I did see a book where there was a character who insisted that it was pronounced Yoid.
well, exactly. So then the next bonus step is to start applying this pronunciation and spelling convention to Spanish and start talking about all of your llamas and have fun with that one. Also, make sure you explain it after you say that, or you're gonna have a lot of Spanish speakers who are really angry at you. Yeah. Okay. So the other fun sound is, as I mentioned, the letter R. This R that we use is super hard for other people to learn. Interestingly, the tap, that sound, is in our language, as we've said, and it's really easy for us to make, and it's very hard if you don't know that it is the sound in butter or, not garage, potato, whatever you said. If you don't know that that's the sound and you learn to transfer that to rojo or color or whatever else, then that's really hard. The trill one, the one you have to say it multiple times in a row, so bear with me. Pero, but, as in not man, or perro, meaning dog. I have learned to say those two. I am very bad at actually getting the double R trill. But those are the most common L sounds, not L sounds, those are the most common R sounds across languages. The other sounds that people tend to struggle with in terms of R are the French R. So the typical Parisian French R is the uvular trill, which is except I also can't do that. Often, very often, it gets shifted down to the fricative in the same place, which is just the same character upside down. And you get, oh wait, that was the trill. Versus, or, which is the trill, but voiceless. Or, I am going to put this in a word, let's see. Répondre. So you'll usually get the trill, particularly in the end of a word. So répondre, you'll get that trill sound. But répondre, you'll sometimes get more of a fricative sound. That varies depending on your accent, your region, where you're from. Interestingly, I think actually these might be the default ones. Here in Canada, in Quebec, it is very, very common for these fricative sounds to go to the trill one, or even to go all the way over to the Spanish trill. Which is totally fine, and that's just the default sound of this region of French speakers. And at the school I've been teaching at, I'm a Latin teacher most of the time, there's one French teacher who uses this R sound all the time, and I was like, dude, are you from Quebec, or did you study in Canada? And he was like, what? No, what are you talking about? And I was like, you say that letter way different from anyone else in this entire department. And he was like, what? Whatever, never mind. Yeah, R is just a very confusing letter in general. Yes.
Did you talk about the other alveolar lateral fricative, the one that's not the
Oh, yes.
Welsh?
Yes, sorry. So this is just the same sound, but with the voicing. So just like you have S and Z, you can have and I don't know how to do that. Yes, it's there you go. Thank you. Okay. Actually, I think the last one I have on this is in terms of the fricatives, or just the kind of 2 consonant in a row type of sounds. So in English, we have both the voiceless and the voiced ch and j, what we think of as a ch and a g or a j sound. Those are pretty easy. Most of us don't even think of cats, that ts, as being a single sound. We tend to process that as 2 sounds in large part because we tend not to have that sound except where there's what we call a morpheme boundary between them, where you have the word cat and then you added s to make it plural. We don't have a lot of words that I can think of where you just have TS as a single unit anyway. But like tsunami and tsar do tend to have that. Yes. So in other languages it comes up a lot. In English, much less so. What is very interesting to me, again, Boston hockey fan, I'm going to use that as another reference. The current captain, question whether he comes back next season, but we'll find out. I mean, he's old. He's like very, very old for a hockey player, and also played the entire playoffs. No, like an entire round of the playoffs with a broken jaw. And
Jesus.
Yeah.
he's badass, and I love him. And his name is spelled like this. Here we go.
Zdeno.
Zdeno, which most English speakers pronounce that Zdeno, and put in an extra vowel sound in here because we don't have a ZD combination. We don't know how to do that. I have never actually heard him pronounce his own name. Maybe it is pronounced that way, but I deeply suspect that this is just the voiced counterpart of ST as in Steve. So if you can say Steno, and then just turn your vocal cords on, Steno. It's totally possible thing for an English speaker to say. We just don't think about it. Fun with voicing and not voicing. Okay. CADS. Yes, we do have it. Well, actually, I started wrong. It's backwards because I was thinking of this, but then what I was really thinking of was when you put the S in front and you go Steve or whatever. Steno. Yes. What's up?
I live in Connecticut, and there's a town nearby, Ledyard, Ledyard, and it's pronounced Ledger.
Ledger. Yes. So the part of the reason that it's unsurprising we have J here, representing what we consider the Y sound, is that the Y, the Y sound that's up on your hard palate, is really close to, since we don't have these retroflex sounds, it's really close to where we put the J and the J. And that shift has happened in many languages, the combination between like the J sound and the Y sound. So, and when you say them really close, you get, instead of led, yard, you kind of meet in the middle and you get this, you get ledgered.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's kind of related to when you say, what are you going to do today quickly? Like, what you gonna do today?
Yeah, exactly.
With that ch sound.
Yes,
What do
exactly.
you got?
Sky, what's up?
I was just gonna say you'll sometimes see that shift in different accents in Spanish,
Uh-huh.
like me llaman.
Yes, so depending on, or even like the word for I, so yo, some people say yo, some people say jo, same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Vowels.
Oh boy.
Literally, and I'm reading this word for word off my notes, vowels are a hot mess, and not nearly as cleanly organized as consonants. We just manage. So, bear with me. The consonant chart is so pretty, and it is so cleanly organized and very, very, like, categorical, and this is like, it's somewhere. So, some vocabulary before we start talking about English sounds. When we talk about the closeness or openness of a vowel, these are also sometimes called the height, so high or low. And this is how close, like closed or open your mouth is, or how high or low your tongue is. So E, you have your mouth really closed, your tongue is up real high. If you have ah, you have to open, you literally say ah, open your mouth, right? You gotta do that. That is why that's the sound your doctors ask you to say. And the reason why we say cheese for a photo, because you want cheese with a little smile. Then we have front and back, which again is where your tongue is. So cheese is way up here in the front, but like oops, ooh, your tongue has moved further back in your mouth. And then finally, instead of having a voiced or unvoiced pair as the consonants have, we have rounded and unrounded, and this refers to your lips. So in English, which I will just go ahead and highlight, nope, I'm gonna go ahead for a second. In English, we have E, A, A, and then we have oo, o, aw. Most of our back vowels are unrounded, most of our front, nope, said that wrong. Most of our back vowels are rounded, like ooh, make a little circle with your mouth. And most of our front vowels are unrounded, so E, you spread out like this. Now, this sound, this is the French vowel in the word for you, singular, tu. And this is that annoying Mandarin vowel with the umlaut over the u that a bunch of you complained to me about.
Literally about to ask about that.
Yes, ready? So, the problem that a lot of English speakers have is we have no concept of a rounded vowel at the front of our mouth. Because all of our vowels are on the outside of this whole thing. So you get rounding and backness for an English speaker are like the same. And so then you hear this sound in Chinese or French where they're like, no, but say it up here, but also close your mouth. And your brain's like, that's fake. What are you doing? Yes. So, right. So, say E, and then just close your lips. You go E. That's that sound.
If you can whistle through it, then you're saying it right.
If you can whistle, yes. So, like,
German Uber.
yes, probably. Uber, yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's
Yes.
the same vowel.
Thank you. So, if you are, I'm going to use Chinese as an example since you were asking. So, ni versus nu, it's the same, keep your mouth completely the same except your lips. So,
And the first thing you said sounded like me as in you to me rather than
yes.
you.
Right, so that was, so ni, you versus nu, green, I think?
What?
You, green, and you, or is that woman? That's woman. Yes. So you and woman is like ni or nu.
Yeah.
You just close your lips a little bit. Same thing. Okay. That is that. So most languages, as we said with the consonants being spread out, most languages have a minimum of 5 vowel sounds. In order to get enough sounds to make enough words to actually be communicative, you pretty much need at least 5. English has so many.
There are a lot of
Maybe
vowels.
3. I guess 3. You
Yeah.
really need to have something up here, not necessarily one of those, but something in this area, something down here, and something up here. And then if you have more than that, they're going to be somewhere in the middle on the outside. If you have more than that, whatever you want. One thing I did learn recently, and by recently I mean at lunch, is the Chinese vowel distribution, the Mandarin vowel distribution, is E, U, U, and then their low vowel is not this far low. It is here. It is a schwa. But even though the schwa actually never appears in Mandarin, instead it has this and this. So A and U as its completely allophonic distributions, but like both of these are contextual and they come from this underlying sound that's like dead in the middle and no one ever says it. It's fascinating.
So, like, if we were to do an IPA vowel thingy for Welsh, what would that circle set look like?
I don't know anything about Welsh except the sounds, so you have to ask someone.
You can ask me later. I speak Welsh and also.
There you go. Ask our other resident linguist.
Kimry.
Okay, so here are the sounds in English, most of them. We have E, we have A, we have we have this is the sound in cat. We have oo, O, we're going to skip down like in father. We have schwa, which is the kind of like nothing vowel in the middle of, so like America is a schwa at the beginning, or like
Other.
not other. It is an unstressed sound. Other, because that has an accent on it, is going to be that sound. It's like they're very, very similar. But so America, I would put this first, and then something in here for the second one. Definitely. It depends how much emphasis you put on it. Either it's going to be a schwa or a wedge / carrot, whatever you call that sound. Okay. There you go. All right, what else have we missed? This one, the backwards C or the open O, depending how you call it, is aw. So like AW. Some people have what we call the cot-caught merger, where the thing that you sleep on in a cabin versus like, oh, I did this to a fish, are the same sound. Other people differentiate those. So this is what you sleep on, a cot, and I did this to a fish, I caught. Some people merge those, some people don't. You're making faces at me.
The O is O, it's not I.
You're right,
You
you're
just
right.
put it up instead of down.
You're right. Caught like in put or book. And then this is in, like in hit or sick. Now, the other thing about English is when we talk about long and short vowels, and I'm going to have to speed this up, we use those words. There is also a thing that is actually, like, never mind, that was a stupid sentence. Okay, so we can lengthen vowels. Oo and E in English are almost always lengthened, which you would designate by putting a little colon made of triangles right next to it, which I didn't do. But also, a lot of our sounds are lengthened because they're actually diphthongs. They're actually two vowel sounds in one. So, we very rarely say O. This is the sound that's O in Mandarin. So, 我爱你, wo. But O in English, you start with O and then you go to oo. So, O. Most of the time. You don't usually pronounce the oo all the way, but O. You close it a little bit. Same with A. We don't say A. Unless, I guess that's like the question particle in Canada. Yeah. But other than that, but any other application of that vowel sound, you're almost always going to lengthen it a little bit with an E sound. Also, this one, I, which is why, if you hear people from the southern U.S., what they very often do is monophthongize, which is an awesome word, meaning change it to not a diphthong. And so they will say, I'm gonna, and they just have that ah sound, and they drop the E sound off it at all. I'm gonna, or, usually I think they leave these ones alone, but they very often drop the E out of I, and they're gonna say ah for myself. Then we have oi, like boy, and oi, which, this is my favorite sound. That's not true, I have a lot of favorite sounds. But really quickly, I absolutely have to touch on this because we are in Canada. Canadian raising. So, what is Canadian raising? This is a thing that we have observed. There's a word for this. Phenomenon. Thank you, sir. Okay, this is a phenomenon of many of the Canadian accents, which is in sounds where where American speakers would tend to say I, Canadian speakers will tend to say I. Now, I would, but in a second, because the fun fact is Americans do this all the time. It is not a Canadian thing, but it is more frequent in Canada than in the U.S. So, in like U.S. English, typically, we are going to use the I, the lower I sound, in front of vowels that have voicing on them. So I'm going to ride my scooter. I am going to ride this roller coaster, whatever. But I am going to write a book. Now, ready? So try to say, I'm going to write this book. That's like, what are you doing? No one says that. No one says that. Even better, if you say, I'm going to ride my bike, you get them in one sentence, which I had to stop myself from saying about 5 words ago. You're not going to say, ride my bike. That's good. But yes, but what you will find is that Canadian speakers are much more likely to go the opposite direction and say, ride my bike. And raise it even if they are voicing the next sound after it. This is also where you get the aboot thing. Because I knew I left one off of here. Okay, ready? Yep. Ow. Right? So we have the same thing where we're taking ow, which starts with this same very low front ah sound, and it's going up to here. Ow. But if you say about and go up to here and get wedge and then a U, out, to an American speaker, we don't have that sound. We're like, oh, you're saying a boot. Which actually, no, any Canadian that you ever say that to is going to slap you because they're not doing that. Yes.
Is that the same sort of movement you get in bean and sorry? Is it
Yes.
the same?
Yes. So, bin, as most U.S. speakers are going to say, rises up to bean. Sorry is down here, is going to rise up to sorry. Exactly. Good call. Yes.
So, and like I do understand, like with the Japanese, like not having those specific letters, so they come up with one that's close enough. When it comes to like the about and the about and what have you, when it happens for an American hearing it, is it literally their brain just can't process that phoneme?
Yeah.
You
Because
have
they
to learn
just
to
aren't.
recognize it.
Yes. So basically, you're expecting to hear ow, which is down here somewhere, and you still hear the U sound in O or O. But yeah, your brain is not expecting you to be able to combine a different sound with that, and so you probably either gloss over that or you hear it, but when you try to reproduce it, if you haven't thought about this and studied it, your brain is like, well, it's not down here, and I heard the U, so it's a boot. And then the Canadian you're talking to is like, that's not what I said, shut up, don't do that. Yes.
Is that the same thing that's happening with the word like roof? Because when I hear Americans say it, it sounds like rough.
So that is interesting. So some people say roof. My grandma does this. She says roof. So she goes from oof to oof. Which again, if you don't have this or you don't hear this sound very much, you're going to hear it coming down to rough. Very few Americans that I have ever met, bordering on zero, would say that rough, like not smooth, and roof sound alike to them. But if you, the listener, don't have this vowel in that type of word as an option, then you would, again, same thing. Instead of hearing a boat and pulling it up, you're hearing roof and being like, what? Why is this down here? Yes.
I learned, I only took a couple linguistics courses, but I did learn phonetics in Canada. So how we were taught it is that for us, the verb form of house is house.
Yep.
So that we get the American about sound.
Yeah.
We get basically only with a voice.
Yes, exactly.
But we do have the sound that.
Right. It's just much less frequent, and you're going to put it in a lot. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna really quickly zoom through the last 3 slides here. Things we didn't have time to talk about today. Tones. I learned the word toneme, which is when the tone of a word has semantic value to it, like a phoneme, but with tones. It's real cute. Tone is when not the pitch, that's different. Tone is when you change the pitch of the word as you're speaking. So the example everyone knows is Mandarin. If I were going to go through this in detail, this is the only time I would not use the IPA notational system, because the IPA notational system for tones is confusing AF. And the opinion system is great and very straightforward, and I love it. Talk to me about that a different time. But actually, no, I'll give you a quick example. So the go-to sentence is, Mama, did your mother scold the horse? Is your mother scolding the horse? And you can, because you have ma, which is mother, ma, scolded, ma, horse, ma, question. And that, to an English speaker, is just like you're making weird sounds inside your word. Why are you doing that? And the Chinese speaker's like, no, that's meaningful, thank you. There is also pitch, which I am not qualified to perform for you. Whatever, replicate. Japanese uses this to an extent. Finnish uses this, I believe. A lot of Scandinavian languages. There are a remarkable number of ways, if I recall correctly, that Japanese and Finnish are very similar, despite being 0% related. Fun fact. And this is where if you say and I'm making the words up because I don't speak these languages, but if you say something like ma versus ma, which are both flat tones, but the pitch, how high you say them or how low you say them, actually affects the meaning of the word. Or particularly if you have a multi-syllable word and you would have like mother versus mother, that, not a tone on a specific syllable, but over the course of the word, that changes things. English does not use that as a meaning sound thing. That's a bigger thing.
Except grammatically.
Except for questions.
Right, so we use that in whole sentences for questions, for incredulity, for tone of voice in terms of your emotions, We don't use it to distinguish actual definitions of words from one another. And finally, the fun one, the other fun one, they're all fun. Vocal quality. So English, like most languages, has a single vocal quality that distinguishes meaning, and it's just like, I don't know, normal voice, voiced voice. I don't know what its real word is. It's like, anyway. But some languages, a voice, which is not quite whispering, but like, mother, like really breathing into it as you say that. Hello would be a different word from hello, which could also, if you go to creaky voice, be a different word from hello. Now, this is the one you've probably heard about because a lot of English speakers will use this either as a emotional tone marker or because they are tired or because they are trying to be quiet but also voice things, because if you don't voice your whispering then your sounds are confusing and blah blah blah. There's a number of reasons why you would do this. And people are judging the people who do it because it's mostly like teenage girls and everyone hates teenage girls, whatever. In some languages, that is actually a distinguishing feature of different words. And so if you say hello, that's different from saying hello or hello. So that's fun. I don't speak any of those languages. If anyone else does.
Do those two different types of voice show up in the same language?
They can, they don't have to.
Okay.
But as far as I know, and as far as I know that we as a planet know, these are like normal voice, breathy, and creaky voice are like the three that are used distinctively as opposed to just used to communicate your emotions. Yes?
Do you have any specific examples? Like, I know you don't speak them.
A lot of African languages, ask the internet. And of course, thank you, actually the last thing, a lot of African languages also use clicks, which did not show up on the original consonant chart because the original consonant chart was all of the consonants that come out of your lungs, not your things, but the bilabial click or the whatever I just hit with my tongue click. Howl, probably, and there's like 5 of them, and I can't make more than 2 of them on command, so also have fun with the internet. Now, finally, to wrap up, what next? Obviously, there's still lots of questions. If you are an internet, a chat room kind of person, hit us up on Slack. We have a whole channel about linguistics full of interesting conversations and also just random puns and nonsense. See also this fandom. This is the funny story that I did promise, and I've told a couple people, but here you go. Even though that you have no time and no money to do actual linguistic research, we're going to crowdsource this, we're going to make it happen. We sort of did, and then we all got busy and didn't finish it, so stay tuned. But I mentioned this and said that maybe if all the stars aligned, I could actually present some of that work here today. It didn't happen. I was like, it's not that related to Young Wizards. And Eli said, well, I'm pretty sure people will listen to you talk about whatever. And I was like, even like paint drying, probably. And this lovely human being drops into the main Crosslinguistically channel and is like, hey, idea, Sarah narrates linguistics of paint drying. Who would attend? And 17 people said, yes, absolutely. So to you 17 people, if you are here, thank you, I think. And special invitation to you, but invitation to all of you. Whoops. But also. Join us tonight for Linguistics After Dark, which, I didn't finish this slide. Whatever. It will be at the same time as Crossings Jam, but in the room that Crossings Jam is not.
That's 8:30.
Great, so 8:30, so not 9 o'clock. Nothing on the slide is correct. 8:30 in 3B, which is the room where the invitational was. You are more than welcome to drop in and out of that and Crossings Jam and games and goofing and whatever you want. But we do ask that you submit questions ahead of time. There are many colors of note cards up on the desk, and all the other note card events have already happened, so you get to use whatever color you want. Write some questions, Emma and Jenny will collect them, and then Eli and I will answer them. We do ask that all of your questions be related to linguistics, at least in some tangential way. We make no promises, however, about the answers. And for anyone who I have not seen the child, but not the baby, but like the older child. But anyway, we're not going to get like ridiculous, but also this has not been prepared in advance and it is not rated, so your mileage may